Welcome to Checking In, a Lodging DEI chat. I am Oren Stewart, the studio host. Thank you for joining us here today. Stay tuned. We have a great episode in store. You do not want to miss it.
Hey! Ah! Hey! Hey! Ah!
Once again, thank you for joining us here at Checking In. I am Oren Stewart, the studio host. Now let's introduce our host of the show, Miranda and Leon. How are you all doing?
Great.
Good
Doing
to see
good,
you.
Oren, doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure, and I'm so glad to see you guys. Have a great show.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Miranda, how you doing?
I'm good, Leon. I'm glad to see you.
Yes, it's good to be seen, and it's great to be back. Yeah, it's been a while, but we're back.
Well, we have to keep the people waiting in suspense for our return.
Yes, we gotta get the people what the people want, right?
Yes,
Gotta give them what
exactly.
they want. Yeah, we're back. This is episode number
21?
21. I think that's right. I think this is it, episode number 21. So our guest for today, you'll introduce her in a second, but she will never forget that she was on episode number 20, right?
Exactly.
So, speaking of not forget, I have to tell you this one quick story, right? So I live in Baltimore at an Oriole game, and the usher takes us to our seats and everything. Really nice guy. And I said, "What's your name?" Right? And he said, "If I tell you, you will never forget it." And he just stopped. Right?
Okay.
I go, okay. What's your name? He says, "If I tell you, you'll never forget my name." Like, all right, what's your name? He goes, Sophocles.
Oh, okay.
Sophocles. He said, "You'll never forget that." That was like 16, 17 years ago. Every time I go to the ballpark, I'm like, "Where's Soph?"
That's interesting.
Yes. You just things you say you'll never forget it, right? So our guest will never forget being on episode number 20. However, I will never forget how much fun it is doing this show with you. Thank you so much for partnering with me on this.
Likewise. I feel the same.
Yeah, thank you.
So our guest today, I have to tell you, I'm so excited that she has time to fit us in her schedule. She is amazing. I have had the opportunity to see her speak many times over the years, and I always walk away inspired, excited. I'm a very big fan.
Great. So let's bring on our guest for today. Our guest is Lani Kane-Hanan. Hey, Lani, how are you?
Good morning. Nice to see you both. And thank you, Miranda, for that warm introduction. That is going to be hard to live up to, but I will do my best.
It's all true and all from the heart.
So Lani, before we jump into the questions, I'm just going to ask you something. You were listening in the background. You will never forget being on episode number
21. Is that correct? 20. I heard 20, then I heard 21. And I was focused more on the 21 because I was thinking about, for many years, used to say, "Oh, I'm 21, and then you have children and you can't be 21 anymore. You need to say you're 40 or something. And then you're long past 40. Well, hopefully not that long. And then you can't, I can't round down anymore. So now I just round up, right? I round up. I say, oh, someone says, "How old are you?" I say, "Oh, I'm approaching 60." And they think, "Oh, great, she looks good for 60. So I stop rounding down. I round up. You turn it upside down. You think about it a different way, right?
I love that. I love that.
You will never forget being on Checking In. Right on. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Lani, in case any of our guests are not familiar with you and your rich history in the industry, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Absolutely, I'd be glad to. So I am a 30 plus year veteran of this amazing industry. I grew up in the hospitality industry. My grandfather was the general manager of a great old hotel in Kansas City, and after school, I used to love to go to that hotel and make rounds with him. And if I got, good grades on my tests and did everything I was supposed to do, he used to let me make rounds with him. And I don't want to date myself, but I also used to be able to work the switchboard and say, thank you, one moment, I'll connect you. So that's how long ago we're talking about, right? But he really taught me that the business of hospitality is a privilege. And people are trusting you with the important moments of their lives, whether they are on holiday or celebrating a wedding or at an important business meeting where they're trusting you to be their home away from home. The business of hospitality is a privilege, and I've always believed that. And so the moments in my life that people have said, oh, I struggled with what I wanted to do when I grew up, I never had, because the business of hospitality is a privilege, and I always wanted that privilege. I just had to decide what was going to be my role in this amazing industry. And so I've had various roles throughout the years. I'm a proud graduate of the chaplain school, both my undergraduate and graduate degrees. I have worked for consulting firms. I've worked in the cruise industry. I have had I've been a partner in my own consulting firm. And for the last 22 years, I worked for Marriott Vacations Worldwide in roles of varying responsibility until my last role, which was the Chief Development and Product Officer for Marriott Vacations Worldwide. And I'm excited to announce that in the next couple of weeks, I will be taking on a new role, which is the CEO of One Company. One stands for Open Network Exchange. And people say, oh, are you a tech company? Well, we're a solutions company that is tech enabled. And while we specialize in the hospitality industry and providing solutions for hospitality clients to really interact with their customers on a more intimate basis, we also provide services throughout the real estate and financial industries as well.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. That's a
Thank
big
you.
deal.
Thank you. Yes,
That's
I'm very
amazing.
excited about the role and the company, which is, a plus, because a lot of people get excited about a role, but not a company, or excited about being with the company, but not the role. And when you can have both, that's really a bonus, right? That's really a blessing.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Absolutely. Amazing. I can't wait to see what you guys do. I know it's going to be big.
Thank you.
So before I ask you anything else, there's something, every time I think about you, I think about something that you said that has stuck with me for years. And whenever you were speaking on the Castell panel, you've also mentioned this. You said, you can have it all, but not necessarily all at once, right? And so as you were telling me, or as you were sharing with us your career venture, I know that you are also a mother, a wife, you hold other roles, right, in this life. Tell me a little bit about how you balance all that, or how you balanced it throughout your career.
Absolutely. And that was, I think, and I know I absolutely said that because I say it often, because it was one of my biggest life lessons. I felt, especially being, I was a single mom for a majority of, I have two wonderful boys, and I was recently remarried, so now I have a beautiful daughter. But when I was raising my two boys, I was raising them as a single mom in a time when it was difficult to see someone like me in the workplace. Not only a working woman, but a working woman who was a single mom was very rare. And so I felt a lot of pressure to be the greatest mom, the greatest wife, the greatest daughter, now the greatest single mom, and the greatest professional, and to do it all at once. And I had to learn the lesson that there are some moments in your career that your family comes first, and that's okay. And there's moments in your career where your community might come first, or there's moments in your career when your career comes first, and that's fine. And when I look back on my career and the next chapter, I can say I've I've had it all and I'm going to have more. It just didn't happen all simultaneously. And so it took for me a lot of life lessons on balance, on prioritization, on support network, right? And so I looked at for opportunities where people could supplement the holes that I had in my circle. So where was my missing piece? Who could I be a yin to a yang, right? So because I worked during the day and I had some neighbors who did not, they would cover me if I was unable to pick up a child or make it to a game. And because perhaps they had obligations at night, or they might have had something to do when on the weekend where I had more availability, I would cover for them, right? And so I constantly looked for people in my life who were missing something I could provide, and they had something that I was their missing piece and they were mine. And so it took a variety of different relationships to be able to find that. And I think that, that's a whole piece of networking that we often don't talk about, which is the networking of supporting your life and your community, not just the networking that's related to your professional and career development, right? Because it really takes both to quote unquote have it all, and to have it all over a period of time.
Absolutely. That's really solid advice for every aspect of life, I believe. Thank you. Leon?
You're watching Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. I'm Leon Thomas here with Miranda Kitterlin-Lynch, and we are the host of Checking In. Our guest today is Lani Kane-Hanan. Lani, let me ask you this. You mentioned that your grandfather was
My
in the
grandfather.
hotel business, right? And that he taught you that working in hospitality is a privilege because we're there celebrating when folks you're with them in the most important times, whether a business meeting, a wedding, a funeral, whatever it is. These are memorable, important times to them. What do property level managers today, owners of hotels, department managers, what's the best way to get folks to understand that?
I think that's a wonderful question, because when I tell people the story, right, of why I'm in the hospitality business, and that I believe it's a privilege, sometimes they honestly look at me like I'm crazy. Now, I am a little crazy, and I think that keeps my innovation piece of me alive. I think a little crazy is okay. You just hope you get people who understand you're crazy, right? But I think that the best way that I've experienced, and I've tried a few different things in my career, is you hope that people that work for you have that same passion, but sometimes they haven't had the exposure. So for me, it comes from the exposure. I make sure that the associates that I work closely with and that are on teams of mine, one is that I use a program called Strength Finders, and there's lots of different ones out there, but Strength Finders is one that there's no wrong answer. It profiles associates and people based on their strengths, right? So there's 40 strengths, and based on a series of questions, it comes up with your top 5 and 10 strengths. And what that does is it tells me a lot about a person in the ways that are meaningful for them in a very positive conversation. And I'm all about the power of positivity. And so when I can look at one of the associates and I can see what makes them tick, are they the kind of person that's a learner, right? Or are they the kind of person that needs firsthand experience? Are they motivated by recognition? Are they motivated by reward? It tells me, are they strategic or are they futuristic or both? And so when I can learn about a person's strength, I can figure out the way to connect with them. And so once you can connect with them, you can give them a way that would be important to them to experience what we do in the hospitality industry. And I find the best way to do it is to bring folks that don't work on site, right? Have them sit around the pool for half an hour and see a family interact, or sit at s'more night when, when folks are around a campfire making marshmallows and teenage kids actually put their phone away, right? That's a moment of family connects. Or when you can actually see the difference that you've made in the life of a customer, or a customer comes back and talks to you about a problem or a solution, and that team's been able to react and not only meet their expectations but exceed it, and see the difference that they've made in their lives. And that creates the passion, because that's how it was created for me. It was walking around the hotel with my grandfather, talking with guests and talking with associates. So it's not only the difference we can make in the lives of our guests, but it's the difference we can make in the lives of our associates, those that work with us at the hotel, at the company like mine, like tech, at the management company that you might have worked for, or at the education level. So it's touching the lives of those people that we interact with. So the business of hospitality being a privilege is not only about the guests, but it's about serving those that we work with every day and enhancing their lives as well. Because if you feel as an associate, as an employee, heard, valued, and promoted, that feeling is going to be transmitted to our guests, and our guests are going to walk away feeling that their experience with us, with a brand, with a cruise ship, a hotel, or any part of our industry has enhanced their lives. And that's the privilege of hospitality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny, my husband walked by while you were talking about Strength Finders and then dropped this on my desk.
Yeah, great. I mean, I know there's other programs. That's the one that I use, but I just think that interacting with your associates in a way that's positive. All of my reviews throughout my career were always focused on my weakest links, spending time, right, on my weakest links. And instead of spending time on the things that I was good at and taking them from good to great. So I never got into the sand trap. So I never had to worry about those weak links. And if that's a great way, I think, on our topic of DEI, a program like Strength Finders to really help us provide tailored programs for development for our workforce. Because again, it's hospitality is about connecting, and it's not just about connecting with our guests. We have to connect with our associates, right? And make wherever we work a place that they want to work, that they feel valued, that they know there's a path for them to succeed, that they're spoken and that they're heard. And it's not always easy, because the passion for the topic, as long as we're talking about passion, doesn't always exist, and it's not always prevalent throughout companies in which we work, or communities in which we live, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask you, so one of the things that I've been talking to people in the industry a lot about, well, let me back up. I agree that hospitality is amazing. I love our industry. Absolutely. So much so that I married 2 restaurant managers in my lifetime. We do see that we are struggling with labor shortage in our industry, and for myriad reasons. What do you think we can do to help with that? Because my first inclination is to explain to people this is an amazing industry that you can do so much in, and it's a privilege to work in. How would you solve the problem for me?
All right. Well, so I absolutely share your thoughts in that manner. And it's one of the reasons that I'm so heavily involved in an organization called Castel. And especially in one of the, Castel is a group that is really about networking and fostering the development of women in the hospitality industry. And that Castel has various 4 different branches. Castel is now a division of the American Hotel and Lodging Association's foundation. It's a foundation supported project within their Forward branch. And so when you look at one of the elements of Castel, it's called Castel Colleges. And that is where, at least in the last couple of years, you and I have spent more time together. But it is about bringing women of various backgrounds and diversities in the hospitality industry to the classroom, right? At various hospitality sponsored universities, and hopefully, even bringing it down another level into the high schools eventually. So that when I was in what we used to call hotel school, right? Many years ago, certainly women in the classroom were a minority. And the most prevalent job that was talked to us was about, you can have a great future in operations, in housekeeping, work the front desk, or go into event planning, etc. Right? And so we want to show the young women of today that the hospitality industry is so special because it's so diverse in the opportunities and the jobs that are available. So, for example, I ran development and product for Marriott Vacations Worldwide. That's construction and development, and the development of all our new customer-facing products, right? Today, I'm the CEO of a tech company that supports the hospitality industry. And we have general managers, and we have educators, and we have folks that are revenue and yield management specialists, et cetera, et cetera. And so letting the next generation of students at the high school, and more importantly at the university level, see that this is an industry that you can have a broad and diverse career in, that is very sustainable, is, I think, the number one piece of that battle, right? So that people can see themselves in a role that they never imagined. And that's what excites me, because our industry is so diverse. And so I think attracting people to our industry is a big part of that story at the college level. And I think it's also celebrating and getting out there the amazing careers. Sometimes you hear the bad news, but you never hear the good news, right? I have been fortunate in that the end of the industry that I have always worked in is vacation related, not necessarily related to the business travel. And so the thing I love about the industry is whether the economy is good or bad, people take vacations, right? Vacations are sacred. People travel, and so that this for me has always been a very recession-proof end of the industry. And I have always felt that while we had to tailor the product a little different in good economic times or bad economic times, it's always been a product people have wanted and demanded.
Absolutely, absolutely. Leon?
You mentioned the idea of attracting folks to our industry, and several years ago, the high school that I attended in Baltimore sent out an email that mentioned that they were having a career day, meaning that professionals from varying industries would come and talk to students about their industries that they worked in, with hopes of allowing the students some opportunity to investigate those industries, to go into then what are you going to do after high school, college, trade school, or whatever. And I filled out the form and I said, I'll come talk about the hospitality industry. And the counselor, the career counselor who was in charge of that event, called me and said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Like, what do you mean, no thanks? He says, there's not many jobs in the hospitality industry and hotels. I mean, you're going to work the front desk, you're going to work in maintenance, you're going to work in a restaurant, you're going to work in housekeeping, and mostly women do that. He really threw that on, right? And he says, so there's really nothing that anyone can do in the hospitality industry. So in a nice way, don't come. I'm like, So I said, well, let me explain what I've done in the hospitality industry. And I went through all the things that I've done, how I, worked my way up, had a great career ladder, folks mentoring me along the way and so forth. And I met with him. And at that time, I worked for Choice Hotels and invited him to Choice Hotels to see this major operation that we had of revenue managers, marketing folks, advertising, accounting, finance, everything. And he goes, oh. I didn't know. Yeah, you didn't know. So I have to think there are a lot of other folks that are in positions that could guide students into our career that they don't know. Last night, I was at a banquet where the principal of that school was there. And he said, "Oh, I've been looking for you. One of our grads is now working assistant manager at the Hilton downtown." Like, oh, that's great. I tried to really downplay it, right? He's like, "I thought you'd be excited." I'm like, no, not really. Remember, there's nothing to do in hotels, So I I thought I'd throw that out there before my last question to you. You mentioned that your grandfather's hotel was in Kansas City. That's like rib and barbecue area, right?
Absolutely.
You
Oh,
ever
I know where this is
Well, you
going.
want to know what my
You know where
favorite?
we're going, Miranda. You know where this is going. You know it. You know it. Laney,
What's
you
my
ever had a
favorite?
Maryland crab cake?
I have had a Maryland crab cake. Yes.
Where? Where?
I had the fortunate to have, 22 of my long careers with Marriott, whose corporate headquarters is in Bethesda.
Ah,
So I have spent
I,
time in Bethesda and throughout the region. So, and I have had what I thought was authentic crab cakes, but I do. I've had the privilege of having two wonderful dads. My dad passed away when I was young, and my mom remarried. So I've had two wonderful dads in my life, and I've been so blessed to have a wonderful grandfather, now two wonderful dads. But my stepfather is from Baltimore. So he has some opinions on the crab cake matter as well, right? So just like I, from growing up in Kansas City, am very particular about my barbecue, right? He's
yes,
very particular about his crab
yes,
cakes.
yes.
So I don't know if I've had anything as good as you've had or could make, but I might want to. Maybe we could do a little barbecue crab cake throwdown.
So maybe we could do that, but
I
you
want
don't
to come to
want
that.
me. You don't want me cooking the crab cakes, all right? You want. I can tell you the hot places to go. When you said Bethesda, I'm thinking DC suburb. I'm not sure, but when you brought it into the Baltimore piece, and we're going to get Miranda to bring the mac and cheese
I am
because
an
word
expert
on the
at
street
baked
is
mac
she's
and
got
cheese
it.
now.
Oh, well, that will be an interesting menu. I would eat that mac and cheese, barbecue, and crab cakes.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Awesome. So, Lainey, my last question for you is one that I like to ask all of our guests, and I learn something new every time. What would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self?
Aside from buy Apple stock when it comes out, right? I would tell myself that a few things. One is that whatever I choose, to choose something that I have passion for, right? I think that the difference in anything that I've seen between good and great is when the person leading that effort had passion for the subject, right? And to take a role that I have passion for, even if that role is what others perceive to be a step back. Because I think one of the most important things that I've done in my career, I look at my goal overall in my life is the first third of my life I learn, the second third of my life I earn, and the last third I return, right? So I'm in that stage of my life in between the earn and return. But I would tell that 20-year-old self of mine, you're in the stage of learn, right? And so learning comes from education, which you pay for the privilege of, and then you take a job and you want to learn, right? And you're now getting paid for the privilege of making a difference at that company, but also learning, right? And so take advantage of that opportunity. If it's a step sideways in title, but it gives you the opportunity to learn an entirely new subject, that is a win, right? Because that's education. And again, you're getting paid for it. So some of the most important career decisions that I've made was taking a step sideways, or maybe even some people perceive that to be backwards, right? in something, a topic that I thought I had passion for, and learning about it. So I've worked in operations, I've worked in revenue management, and make sure that you've had sales and marketing, a little international experience. Take on that assignment, that role, that initiative that's out of your comfort zone. Because if it feels good and easy, I say run, right? Because that's not what you need to grow and learn. You want to have something that feels challenging and that feels difficult, but also that you have passion for and that you feel like you can make a difference and leave your stamp. So I would give myself permission to do that, to go sideways and backwards, to go forward.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lani, thank you for spending time with me and Miranda here at Checking In. It's a great conversation. And thanks for sharing your perspective and your story with us. It's been great having you on the show.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you very, very much for having me. And I look forward to watching your next episode.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back now to our studio host, Orrin Stewart.
Such an amazing episode today, as always. It's a pleasure being back. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. I am Orrin Stewart here at Checking In, a Lodging DEI chat. Make sure to continue to tune in and watch us. We'll be back. Have a great week.